Alright, Eric, so I got the 3 knives finished up. It rained all last night here in Ohio and more storms coming in, so it's a real overcast day. I just wanted to show you them real quick and then show you the action and stuff and talk a little bit. This was the one that the detent ball had fallen out of. So as you can see, I was able to very closely replicate even where the grooves were at and everything. The color came out pretty close. If anything, the new one might just be a hair on the richer of the blue side. And then I also went ahead and did where I bronzed the raised areas, which is not really coming up on the camera, but I know you've seen the knife before, so you know how it looked. Nice bronze backspacer. Didn't touch nothing else, just that. Went ahead and replaced a couple of the hardware because this knife's been apart a few times. These OKCs come with real soft hardware, and I noticed a few of them were starting to look ugly, so I replaced a couple of them. The action on this knife is just crazy smooth now. I mean, this is just, you almost just can walk it around. This is probably the best feeling prime, ooh, almost cut myself, I've ever played with. So very cool. On the TwoSun, as I'm standing here looking at it off camera, I see way more colors than I do on camera. You've got these like bronzes, you got rose golds, you got more bronze golds, there's greens, there's blues, there's purples along this edge, more greens up in here. It is just a beautiful knife when you look at it in person. The quality of these TwoSuns is kind of there's a few things I don't like about them. There's some things I do like, but as far as just aesthetics go, this is probably my favorite knife I've ever done. So really digging on it. On the back side, did this green distressed anno, and again on the video you're not really going to see it, but once you get this back in person, you're going to see along the edges and stuff that there is purple and bronze anno, and this was all hand stone washed to get this finish on here. I won't even go into the details, but there was a lot of work to get this distressed look on this knife. Well, that's the other thing too. On this side, all those raised areas are done in a copper, bronze, gold, whatever you want to call it. It just is awesome. Absolutely love this knife though. And then you can see I bronzed the clip. Action on this knife as well. Pretty good deployment. Pretty much a free drop. Oh yeah, you can, has a weak detent. I mean, you can gravity flip this knife very easy, and it's not centered the greatest, and I played with that quite a bit. I think it's just the nature of the beast and the price range and stuff that the knives are, but awesome knife. Did the acid wash on the blade and then stone washed it, and then went ahead and freshened up the edge. I think I did 25 degree edge on it. I'm not like these guys you see on Instagram that are doing the mirror edge finishes and stuff. I just make sure I get a nice sharp cutting edge on it, and that's, you know, okay for me. I just use a Lansky. I don't have no fancy KME or Wicked Edge or nothing like that. Wasn't able to completely get rid of the lettering, and once I realized that I would have to take a lot of material to do it, I opted to leave it where it was still there, and I think it kind of came out cool with the acid wash on there. So pretty happy about that. All in all, cool knife. If you ever decide to sell it, I'd like to be on the top of that list, just because of the fact of the work I put into it, not because it's a super high-end knife I love to have in my collection. It's just I put a ridiculous amount of time into it, and I'm really happy with how it came out. And honestly, I'm not sure that I'd ever be able to duplicate that 100%. And then on the Fodale, that thing was a nightmare. As you saw from those pictures, they had gouged up the detent track pretty bad. So I went ahead and actually took it to my 1x30 belt sander and slowly ate away material there. And then I ended up using hand stones and then smoothing the metal. And then in the meantime, I kept having to test fit it back in the knife to make sure I wasn't taking so much material away from the side of the blade that it would be loose in there. We're talking minuscule amounts, and I was using grits up in the 1500 and 2000s. So just taking off very slim amounts. And then what I ended up doing was doing a polish on the pivot and the detent trail. And then, so it's still grooved a little bit, but it is 90% better than the way it was. And then I played around with how tight all the screws were. I even flipped the pivot hardware both different ways to see if it made a difference in when you're clamping it down and how all the action was. And ended up going in reverse of how I think you sent it to me, meaning that the barrel is on this side and the actual screw is on this side. But in the end, I'm pretty happy with it. Is it as smooth as what it should be? I mean, both these knives kick its butt, but it does function. It does deploy a lot faster. Once you get past that detent, there's like a little bit of a hiccup in the beginning of the detent. Once you get past it, though, I mean, it will drop with some assistance. And I actually had it going pretty good. That's going to make a liar out of me. But I mean, you know how it was before I got it. It was really, really rough. I mean, it definitely didn't deploy like that. Still got plenty of lockup, just a little bit of side-to-side play. Could probably tighten down the pivot a hair more, but then you would sacrifice some of that smoothness. And you can still feel some grit in there. And what that is honestly those grooves that they put in that detent track. But it is a lot better. And as far as the tip goes, I ended up working on the tip. I ever so slightly caressed it back the best I could, and then there was still some extra material. I think what happened at one point, someone broke the tip and they reprofiled it and left too much material on one side, so I took a little bit of material off whatever side it was, I can't remember now. And I believe the tip's fairly straight now. I don't see a whole lot of issue with it. And then their edge that they put on here, this bevel, is so high up and it's such a aggressive angle that rather than try and mimic what they did there, I just put a 20-degree edge on the edge of this bevel that they have set, because it basically was really dull and couldn't cut. Now it'll cut, you know, paper and stuff like that. It's not like razor sharp, but it is sharp enough to actually use now. So definitely have more time into it than I thought I would, but I was able to fix it up a little bit. And you know, before it was almost kind of embarrassing how bad it was. I mean, obviously you know that. And now it's, you know, not so terrible. So, but there are your 3 knives, and I'll be shooting you a message here in a little bit. Alright, bye.